Good to see you. Thanks for
Good to be
coming
with
over
you.
today.
Habemus Papam.
Perfect timing.
Yes, we have a pope. So it was just a historic time. Great to witness. Great timing. I thought, man, is he going to address us before I have to get on to JGV? Because I don't want to miss this. So thank goodness, right before I drove out here, he was able to give his address. You know, you saw that processional cross coming out onto the loggia of St. Peter's Basilica, and out comes our new pope, the first American pope, right? Habemus Papam Americano. So, and just like how I like my coffee, but Americano. So Robert Prevost, Cardinal Robert Prevost, or Prévost, because I think they leave out the T in his pronunciation.
If he's French Canadian, that's correct.
Yeah.
Where?
Well, he's from Chicago.
Chicago.
Born in Chicago, and a lot of Americans don't know him because he served overseas. In fact, he became a citizen of Peru. He naturalized as a citizen of Peru because he had served there for so long in that country of Peru, to the point where Pope Francis appointed him the Bishop of Chilcalio. I can't remember the name of the diocese, but he actually spent more years there than in service than in the United States, from what I can tell. I haven't, again, looked at his resume very much. Nobody really knew about him. He was kind of, you didn't see his name in the first page of the Papabile. The Popables, the hopefuls. The
Popefuls. And they were saying, you've seen all the coverage, the people who were alleged to be the front runners, just because their names would be mentioned, suddenly they are not going to have a chance at election.
If you enter the conclave as a cardinal, if you enter the conclave as the Pope, you're coming out as a cardinal.
Right. So right? The whole world really surprised, because no matter what they would have done, it's a surprise. We had no clue, and no one knows anyone. The average citizen, we don't know any of these cardinals. Maybe we know, a local cardinal, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So what do we know, and what do you know? Did you hear of this person before?
Not before he was named Pope. I was just listening to the commentary, like, who is this guy, right? Prévost. I did hear his name momentarily during that procession of cardinals that I watched yesterday when they first came into the conclave, and what a majestic procession that was, right? Of everybody. There's a picture of him right there.
And he looks young.
69.
Yeah.
He's 69 years old, and I believe his dad is of French and Italian descent. I'm not sure about his mom, but he's been living in Peru for a long time before he was made the head of the dicastery of bishops. So in retrospect, we can see why he was selected, because so many of the prelates there knew him. Mm-hmm. And Pope Francis had appointed so many new cardinals to the College of Cardinals. So there were a lot of folks there that were new, first-timers at a conclave. And so here's a guy that everybody knew, because not only was he the head of the dicastery of bishops, but he was also a member of 7 other Vatican dicasteries there in the Roman Curia. So he was a well-known entity amongst all the prelates, not a well-known entity among Americans, because he had served so much time in South America, as in Peru specifically.
A lot of the commentary leading up to this has been about what kind of pope the new pope would be. Mm-hmm. And you look at Pope Francis, and he was revolutionary, and I guess on the conservative spectrum scale, more liberal. It seems like the Catholic community wanted, the majority surveyed wanted a pope like Pope Francis. Mm-hmm. What do we know about Pope Leo?
Pope Leo XIV, from what we can tell so far, I haven't had a chance to really look into him, but I would think that because Pope Francis trusted him so much, naming him the dicastery, head of the dicastery of bishops, also putting him in all those spots in those various 7 dicasteries. He entrusted a lot to Cardinal Prevost. And so I would think that he is going to be a pope of continuity, and one that has a heart for the poor. Because of all those years that he worked in Peru, he was known to be a champion of the poor. There was a lot of political instability in Peru during that time, from what I can remember, because there were like 2 overthrows of the government, and the bishops actually played a key role in some stability amongst the people and instilling hope in such a dire time. So hopefully some of that is transferable to, you know, our own troubled times.
Well, I think there are people in the church wondering, you know, maybe they put things on hold. And I look at Detroit, where the Archbishop, new in his role, has put on hold the Latin Mass, where Rome has said, we want to get away from the Latin Mass. It's really, we stopped the Latin Mass in the 60s, but some churches still wanting to offer that. It sounds like Pope Francis wanted to get away from that. In Detroit, they're saying, let's wait and see what the new Pope thinks.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Pope Leo XIV stands on the whole traditional Latin Mass, the TLM. So we'll see.
Are the things that you're waiting on, perhaps what are you anticipating as a parish pastor, how a new Pope will affect you?
Well, I'd love to see the compassion, the love of Pope Francis that he has for the poor, for the poor and for people in general continue. Would love to see, you know, as I reflect on these last 3 popes, John Paul the Great was such a pope of hope, and then you had Pope Benedict, who was such a pope of faith, and then you had Pope Francis, who was such a pope of charity, of love. And so a little bit of a mix of each of those would be great. I think one priest that was speaking, commentating on CBS, was mentioning how Pope John Paul the Great was very much one that opened the hearts of folks to the gospel, to Jesus Christ. Pope Benedict filled those hearts with the faith, with our faith. I mean, he was such the intellectual, and there was so much richness in his presentation of the faith. And then Pope Francis poured out his heart. Right. So one opened the heart, one filled the heart, and now Pope Francis poured out that heart. A little bit of all those would be great, right? So one that opens our hearts to Christ, one that fills our hearts with Christ, and one that pours out his love for others, right?
I also heard some of those commentators on CBS say there are probably cardinals who went into the conclave hoping that, you know, they might have a chance at being named Pope, that once it settled in, you know, the weight of what that job entails, it's something they may have taken their name out of consideration.
Oh, yes. I surely would not. You know, there's a reason why there's a little room in the upper left corner of, when you're looking at Michelangelo's Last Judgment, before which all these cardinals, you know, they step up with their ballot and they have to fill in a name that says, you know, eligo in summum pontificem, I elect as the supreme pontiff, and then you put your name down, and then you swear to God that this is who you feel like God is moving you to vote for, and you're doing it in front of, you know, Michelangelo's Last Judgment, right, with Christ the Judge, right, and so, but just to the left of that, there's a little doorway in the Sistine Chapel, and it's called the Room of Tears, and that's where you have this private moment after you have accepted this office of being the vicar of Christ, the successor of Peter, the one to whom the keys are given. And they call it the Room of Tears is because you feel the weight of this office that you have just been given. And in there's like three different white cassocks that the Pope would wear, and 3 different sizes. and you know, one of them hopefully fits. But
It's
and
like the
then-
Masters. I saw that closet.
yeah, this is a little bit different than the green jacket, but yes, and that room of tears is that private moment before he has to go and greet the faithful for the first time. St. Peter's was just packed. It was just awesome to see. You know, I mean, it was packed even last night when it's a virtual impossibility to be elected in the first ballot, and yet people were filled, you know, St. Peter's Square.
And it's funny, you predicted that we would know who the Pope was by this point today in day 2.
Yeah, I did. Just historically, you know, it's about 7 ballots, the average in the last 10 conclaves. The last two popes have been elected in 2 days. So I figured we'll probably have a pope by the end of the day.
You could see literally people running through the streets in Rome to get to the square, to be there when the Pope came out on the balcony. You've been
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Did you feel, were you disappointed that you couldn't be there this week?
Not disappointed because, you know, we are going to be there. We're taking a parish pilgrimage, a whole busload of parishioners to the Eternal City. And May 26th, we're leaving here.
Oh my gosh.
Jubilee Year pilgrimage. So we're so excited that we
Wow.
get to have probably, most likely, a papal audience with the new Pope Leo the 14th.
Wow, that'd be amazing.
So so very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think you wouldn't want to be there. You know, Airbnbs are $900 a night this
Yeah.
week in Rome, and you can't move. You probably can't get a reservation at a good restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hopefully all those things will settle down, because right now, not only is St. Peter's Square filled, but all the way down the Via della Conciliazione, that big avenue that leads up to St. Peter's. Although I did notice, like, they weren't letting a lot of those folks in. There's like a big section there, swath, that people are waiting to get in closer. But hey, we have a new pope, and it's an American one.
And he is. He's the Pope now. There's not an inauguration or an installation or anything like that, right?
As far as like, there is going to be some welcoming festivities, yeah, like a first mass and all of that stuff. So festivities yet to come.
Yeah, so we'll find out later, because both you and I haven't had a chance to hear him or see much, but we will, I'm sure I'll later know more about this new Pope and what the first days are going to be like. He's going to be super busy.
Oh yeah. Well, he's truly a Pope of the Americas, given the fact that he served so much time in Peru and South America. And then a Pope of, you know, being in Rome for all that time, serving in those dicasteries. So it's not surprising after the fact, you know, 2020 hindsight, right, that he's now the Holy Father.
Well, your new boss, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Bart.
Good to
Yes,
see you.
Habemus Papam.
Well, you'll be our correspondent in Rome when you go. We'll ask you to report back.
Will do. I'd be happy to.
All right.
So,
Thanks so much.
Yeah. God bless.
Father Chaz Canoy, pastor at St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church. More of the